Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Connor Williams, joined by Paul McAllister, and we are looking for our preview as Everton take on Brighton at the weekend at the Amex. Paul, straight away, what are your thoughts on the game at the Amex? How do you think it's going to go for us?
I'm quite worried, to be honest. I mean, last season, I thought Brighton were a bit of a hipsters team. They were a side that everyone said was very good, but whenever I watched them, I'd think, what is it that impresses everyone about this team and about this manager? They just look like they're an easy touch. Yeah, okay, they pass it around and they look pretty, but they don't actually create very much. They don't score many goals. They don't keep many clean sheets. They don't have many standout players where you think, oh my God, you cherry pick him out of their team. He's not going to be hanging around there much longer. He's too good for them. I just thought they were a very overrated side in a sense, because a lot of people spoke about them as if they would push on for the top half and challenge for European places. And I just think, what are people talking about? They don't look like they're anywhere close to that. But they've started this season very well. They've got 2 wins out of 2, haven't they? They came back late in the day to beat Burnley, did they? 2-1 on the opening day.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, and going to Turf Moor's a hard ask for any team, especially a team who are what I've just touched on, who you'd look at and you think tenacity isn't one of their strongest suits. They showed a lot of tenacity and character against Burnley to get a result there, and they've just beaten Watford, who look quite handy, don't they? Watford, they had a great result on the opening day against Aston Villa, and Watford, looking at them, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Watford stay up, and Brighton played them at the weekend and basically played them off the park, didn't they? So maybe Brighton are going to kick on this season, and they've got the feel-good factor, haven't they? So I've got a feeling similar to what I had when we were going into the Leeds game last week, where I think, you know what, if we get a draw here, then that's a good result, considering the circumstances. But hopefully we're going to have some first teamers back. If we had a full-strength team and everyone was going to be available, we want to be available, like your James Rodriguez's, then I'd be thinking, yeah, we can definitely win this and we should be winning it. But we know Rodriguez is not going to be involved. We don't know where Calvert-Lewin is fitness-wise, because apparently he's carrying a little knock, isn't he? We learned that after the Leeds game. Richarlison, we don't know what his energy levels are going to be like, because he's played so much football. I know he's played well in the first couple of games, but it wouldn't surprise me if just at some point soon Richarlison's energy levels just fall off a cliff because he just burns himself out. Hopefully Godfrey's back and he starts, but I just think right now is not a good time to play Brighton. If you're playing Brighton in maybe November, December, after the league sort of balance itself out a little bit, and hopefully when Brighton have got 4 or 5 losses on the board already, then they'd be a bit fragiler, and Everton would be able to go there thinking, yeah, we can beat these just as long as we don't make any stupid mistakes. But they seem like confidence is sky high there at the moment, whereas even though we've had a decent start of the season, we've won 1 and lost 1, I still think that we're vulnerable. And Brighton, I think, if they score first, we'll look at Everton and think, right, these are here for the taking here, just like Watford were.
No problem. What do you think the game's going to actually be like? Do you think it'll be as wide open as the Leeds game was, or do you think it'll be a lot more reserved?
I hope it's not as wide open, because I don't think we can play expansive football, really. We haven't got the squad. I hope it's similar to the second half against Southampton, where basically all our players, we have a game plan of just getting the ball into the box and we stick to it, and their defence just can't cope with it. I hope that's what happens. If the ball gets caught in the middle of the pitch, then I think they're just going to pass it rings around us. They really are. So we need to make sure we get the midfield right. We need Decore and Allen in there. We need them to be energetic, and we need them to be bullying their opposition numbers. We need to be keeping the ball in their half, and even when they're in possession and they're tippy-tappy in and around, we need to make sure we don't leave any gaps for them to play through, and we don't get caught out by any quick off-the-cuff moves, like a simple long ball over the top, or a defender losing concentration and letting a player get away from him like Michael Keane did against Leeds. So I'm hoping we see a game similar to Southampton, where, yeah, they're going to just do what they do, but at the end of the day, our game plan is the right game plan to have, and our players have got an instruction drilled into the head, and they're going to keep doing it, and we'll get our just rewards for it eventually. Because if we put 9-10 crosses into the box, then chances are 2 or 3 times out of 10 we're going to get one of our players on the end of it, and we're going to get a chance out of it. So I really think the first goal is important. If they score in the first 15-20 minutes and can get to half time with a 1-0 lead, then I'd really worry that Everton are just going to run out of ideas.
No problem. What would your lineup and formation be for the game if you're Benitez?
It would be and I don't like this formation, but I would go with 4-2-3-1. I would go with Pickford in goal, Coleman at right back, Mina and Godfrey in as centre back, and Dean as the left back. I would have Damari Gray on the right and Richarlison on the left. Maybe they can interchange throughout the game. I would have Doucouré and Alan in the central midfield, and I'd play Iwobi as the number 10 behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Maybe Iwobi and maybe Iwobi, Damari Gray and Richarlison all interchange throughout the game, depending on what's happening. But I think we should play 2 wide players and a number 10 behind Calvert-Lewin. And I really hope we see Godfrey and Mina as the centre-back partnership, because I don't rate Mason Holgate, no matter who plays next to him. And Michael Keane's just been that shaky that I think he has to come off the side for a couple of weeks at the very least. So that would be my team, a 4-2-3-1 with Godfrey coming back in alongside Mina and Iwobi behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the number 10. And we'll see what Iwobi can do, because he's been saying he wants to play number 10 for ages now, hasn't he? And he's not really taking his chances as of yet. So if you give him one more chance there, he'd have to take it. Otherwise, he's can't ever say that he deserves to play number 10, because we can say, right, you've had more than one chance, you've had 2, 3, 4 chances, and you've not played well in any of them. So you can't say that ever again. And especially when you're now coming off a really good performance against Huddersfield in the Cup. If we put you in your favourite position a few days after you've just had an absolute belter of a game and you still don't perform, then when are you ever going to perform? So that would be my formation, 4-2-3-1.
No problem. Out of curiosity, how come not the 4-4-2? Just because there's more bodies in midfield, or?
So yeah, sort of. But I just don't think playing 2 strikers, out and out strikers, is the way to forward in this type of game, because they're going to have most of the ball, aren't they? They're a possession team, Brighton, and they're at home. So I don't want us playing 2 strikers, because I'm worried they might get isolated, or Richarlison might get frustrated and drop deep and leave Calvert-Lewin on his own. I think I want someone up there supporting Calvert-Lewin, but I want him playing off Calvert-Lewin. I don't want him kind of sitting in around the penalty box, which you'd think Richarlison would probably have to do if he was playing as an out-and-out number 9 alongside him. So I want to see why players getting the ball and crossing it in. And if we're going to go through the centre, then I want to all be winning us set pieces and in around the final third. And I want him linking up with Calvert-Lewin in front of him and linking up the wingers behind him with the 2 Doucouré and Alan, just focusing on winning the midfield battle behind them and winning back possession and breaking up attacks. That's what I'd like to see personally.
No problem. Yeah, because Brighton, like you said, are not only possessive, but they seem to really like to overload the central areas. I know they played a 4-1-4-1, I think it was, again in this opening day. Then they played 3-4-2-1, and then the other day they played 4-2-3-1. So it's quite obvious they quite like to maximise the amount of players in the central areas. Do you think we'll see them play their 3/5 at the back again, or do you think they'll go with 4 at the back?
I mean, who knows? Brighton are just one of those Marmite teams, aren't they? As I was talking about earlier on, one week they look, well, according to other people, they look really, really good, and then the next week they look like they should be relegation fodder, at least whenever I watch them. So I don't even try to read Graham Potter's mind. I think he's just one of those managers who overthinks things sometimes, and sometimes he'll get it absolutely spot on and get a really good performance and a good win and have everyone saying he's the next big thing, and the next week he'll be like Berto Martinez and just completely make a mess of it and see his team get tonked. So I wouldn't even know what formation they're going to go with. I just think if we're going to go away to a team that's going to be having all the possession and trying to play pretty football and play through the lines, then we're just going to have to load the central areas to stop that from happening.
No worries. I was going to ask you if you're a fan of Potter ball, if you buy into it and the XG philosophy that it has.
No, not really. No, I mean, I don't care about styles of football. For me, there's effective football and there's non-effective football. There's not positive, negative, good, bad. There's just football that works and football that doesn't. And as a manager, your job is to find the style of football that is most effective with the players you've got. And Potter, I think he's a bit like that manager, that guy from Norwich, Fark. Sometimes it seems like he plays a style of football, knowing full well it's not going to work, and he's essentially just ripping his nose off to spite his face. There's definitely times where you think if they just kept this simpler, then they could probably bag a draw here. rather than just overcomplicating it and chasing the game when they haven't got the players to hurt the opposition. They'd be better just keeping it simple and maybe trying to nick one off a set piece, but they refuse to do that. So I'm not really a big fan of Potter ball, whatever you call it. When he was getting linked with the Everton manager's job in the summer, I was incredulous. I thought, if he comes in, I'll get behind him because you'll have to, but he should be absolutely nowhere near a shortlist for Everton manager. If he's on the shortlist, then he should be 8th or 9th or 10th. He shouldn't be in the top 3, like a lot of people would suggest that he was. We'll see what happens. I think if Brighton stay in the Premier League, he's either going to be like Sean Dyche, where he just stays there all the while because it's a Premier League job and it's just a safe place for him. He knows he's not likely to ever get sacked. He knows that there's no real expectation on him. If they ever get relegated, then I think he'll do an Eddie Howe and just leave and think that he's proven himself and that he can just doesn't have to go back to the Championship like Howe and Chris Wilder have done. I think it wouldn't surprise me if he decides eventually to leave Brighton, but I'd be very surprised if he gets a job that's bigger than Brighton and he succeeds at it. I think he's just one of these managers who a lot of people think he's good, but it's just snobbery. He's not really done a lot to prove that he is good because what's he done? Has he got a top half finish? No. Has he had a really good cup run one season? No. Has he unearthed some absolute gem players who've been stolen off them by bigger clubs? No, not any I can think of. So I think it's just people being snobs when they think that football played on the floor is good football, when no matter what the result is.
No problem. I've sort of got a small inkling that Arsenal are the type to go after him if they sack Arteta. I've got this small inkling that that's what Arsenal will be aiming at.
I think Arsenal fans will absolutely lose their shit. He's their manager, and I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah, really. just the way Arsenal's done. I've got that inkling that that's what they'll think is the right move for them. But one thing I did want to say, and you've obviously mentioned Holgate. He was linked away, and Brighton was one of the teams he was linked with. Do you think that's potentially a good move for not just for us but for him as well? And would you look at it permanent or loan?
I've not seen this. Was this like weeks ago, or is it today? Or
it was about 2 weeks ago now. It's all white.
If they make a bid for him and it's even half decent, then yeah, I'd take it because Holgate I don't think has any real long-term future at Everton. I think he's lost his chance now. I mean, he had that spell a year and a half, 2 years ago where he looked really good and everyone thought that he was going to kick on, but he just regressed massively last season and he's not really performed well in this season in the few games he's played so far. So I just think Mason Holgate is of a certain level, and that level is not what Everton want to be, which is top 6 in the Premier League, or if not top 6, at least top 8 at the minimum. I think Holgate is a bottom half Premier League defender, if not a top 3 or 4 in the Championship. And that's what you class Brighton at, isn't it? If they're always going to be in the bottom half of the Premier League, most probably, and if they go down, then they'd be one of the favourites to come back up again. So I think if he went to Brighton, that would be his level. But whether there's anything in that story, I don't know. But I'd be happy to accept a bid for Brighton as long as it's not pennies.
No problem. Apparently, Neil Maupay is out with a shoulder injury. Do you think this plays into our favour?
Yeah, he's a dangerous player, isn't he? He's is he like their MVP, their franchise player, as our friends across the pond say, the player who all their fans get on the back of the shirts, and he's their typical match winner?
I think so, yeah. I think Lamperty or Bazuma. I think they're the three.
Yeah, Bazuma is a player who looks really good, doesn't he? But I being honest, Brighton squad is one of the teams in the Premier League I know the least about. Admittedly, there's not a player other than Lamperty and Bazuma, and I forgot what that other guy's name is already. I mean, I don't even know who their goalkeeper is. I know does Shane Duffy still play there? I know. Yeah, I know Duffy went on loan to Celtic last season, didn't he? But I couldn't pick their start 11 for you, honestly, if my life depended on it. I could tell you 3 or 4 players who are likely to play, and that's it. So if he's not playing, then that's only good because he's one of the very few players who they have who I know is more than likely going to put in a good performance. So yeah, it's always a good thing when an opposition team's missing one of their most important players. So hopefully their stunted attack is even going to be even worse.
Yeah, I think their next in favour is that Aaron Connolly, who some people might remember. He was the lad who went down after Michael Keane stood on his toe and he got a penalty for it. I think it was 2 seasons ago now.
Oh yeah. Is Danny Welbeck still there?
I believe he is, but I'm not too sure how much game time he gets for them.
Yeah. I think he had a 1-year deal, did he, last season? And he did okay. He bagged a few goals and he played a lot of games. Probably, I think it was last season was most amount of minutes he played in the Premier League since his United days. So you just know Welbeck's one of those players who, if he hasn't scored for ages, he's going to pop up and score against Everton. You just know it, don't you? So hopefully he's not involved. And hopefully no more stupid officials shenanigans like it was last season, or was the season before under Silva, whenever it was. That's just come back to me now. I remember we were wearing that Salmon kit, weren't we? Was that one of the last? Yeah. I think that was that a couple of weeks before Silva got the bullet.
I think it was. I think that was the end.
It was just it was one of the few crazy bad luck things that just went against Silva, where you kind of felt sorry for him. You think, I know he's not good enough as a manager and we don't believe in him, but what is he supposed to do about that? That's not his fault. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully the officials don't muck it up again, and there's Brian Potter doesn't come out with one of his once in a blue moon masterful game plans where everything just seems to go right for Brighton and it clicks, because that does happen 2 or 3 times a season, but it's just not enough for me to be convinced that they're this sort of dark horse team who everyone should be wary of, and he's a manager who's going to be the next big thing. I mean, I'd still take a draw because they're in good form, aren't they? They've won the first 2 opening games. Everton's squad is not as strong as we want it to be because we haven't done much transfer business, and one of our best players is basically halfway out the door, and James Rodriguez, and a couple of other players are all at different stages fitness-wise. So I'd still take a draw, but if we end up losing this game, I'll be very, very annoyed because I just don't want to lose to Brighton home or away in any season.
Not a problem. Well, I guess the last one is to ask for your. I'll give you a bit of a rundown. Last season, the head-to-head for us is quite good. Our form against Brighton seems to be quite good. Last season at the Amex, it was 0-0. Goodison, we beat them 4-2. Goals coming from Mina, DCL. James Rodriguez got 2, and theirs was from Basuma and Moipai. What's your prediction for the game this weekend?
I don't know why. I'm going to be very boring, and I'm going to predict a 0-0. I think it'll be a bit of a stalemate. I mean, it'll be a lot of them playing pretty football that doesn't really go anywhere, hopefully. It'll be us just trying to get the ball into the box and trying to make the most of set pieces. And I've got a feeling there just won't be any goals in it. I think it'll just be one of those dog of a games where the last 20 minutes is just really, really slow and mechanical, and everyone's thinking, can the whistle just blow here, please? Where it's a type of performance where people will be looking to take the positives out of it afterwards, even though it was not very good. People will say, well, at least it's a clean sheet. At least it's more minutes for this player. At least this player looks like he's coming back into form again. I've got a feeling it's going to be a draw. And I just think 0-0 is the most likely scoreline. I really do.
No problem. That is everything we've got time for today on the Brighton-Everton preview show. Don't forget to comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below your thoughts, your score predictions. We all love to hear it. Don't forget, if you want any Everton merchandise or kits, buy them from the Everton Direct store, link in the description down below, which helps the channel out massively, that we all appreciate.